said. See it in your mind. Trust that. Have what it takes inside. 'Cause you can make it too. If not says who. Yeah, you can make it too. If not says who. You can make it.
Welcome back. It's an apple. Hello, apple. Now my apple. Alright, I'm gonna get one more bite before I give it to you guys. There you go. Just goodbye. Bye. There you go. Hey, the boys got the day off yesterday. So, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do dressage. Look at him. He's so cute. Oh my goodness. For people who don't know, I'm 5'8", 165 pounds, and he's 18 hands. He still needs probably 100 pounds on him to get back to where he was last summer. But we'll get there. Don't worry. I think they're up to like 3 hours on grass. Eventually they'll be like 8 to 10 hours. But yeah. So this is a pretty accurate ride. Like, I mean, not accurate in the sense of like it's so correct, but like this is a typical ride for me unless we're like working on something specific. So I take about 10-15 minutes depending on whether or not, like, I just pulled him out of the pasture, whether or not he was like in his stall or his run or something. So if I just pull him out of the pasture, typically I will do a 10-minute walk, just loose rein, just really trying to get him stretching. I'd love for him to take his nose out a little bit more in the stretch, but we're still loosening his back up. We're still building muscle. The EPM really kind of destroyed his body condition. So we're about halfway to where we were last summer as far as like weight and muscle. But I've got the Equine system on. I find that when I use this, it really kind of reminds him about his butt. Like, he can't just be so lackadaisical about things. Like, it's there, you know, and he feels it, and it's something like to remind him to use his butt. What I'm trying to say is I like this thing. It's really the only training aid I use on a regular basis is this. So I start out after I do about a 10 to 15 minute walk warm up, and then I go into a stretchy trot. So for him, we're really, really working on trying to get him to lower a little bit more, because he just isn't taking the bit down and out in the stretch, and that's what I'm really trying to work on, so we can really just, he's almost there. He keeps trying. He gets to a certain point. Like, his stretch is not nearly as good as 10, but I've had 10 for over 5 years. I've had him for a little over 2. So I haven't had as much time to work on it with him, but it takes a long time to build up that muscle for them to have a correct stretch. And when he does lower and he does lift his back and he does tighten his core, he's a little bit behind the vertical. You'll see right there. So you see he came a little bit behind the vertical there. That's not what I'm wanting. but it's a step in the right direction for the stretch. He's willing to soften the underside of his neck is I guess what I'm trying to say. So I try to go around, change direction, stay on a circle. I really try not to do a whole lot of like super straight lines. Oh, I'm sorry, it's like almost 12 in the morning. Because I don't want him to even start thinking like, hey, I can take a hold of the bridle and just go. That's his biggest thing. Kitty, no, that's not your time. So continuing stretching. Towards the end, he really started to get it there, so I let him go into a free walk and just kind of take a breather and itch his face. So then what I will do is do basically the same thing at the canter. So it's easier for him to do the stretch and the walk. Not as easy in the trot and a lot more difficult in the canter. And it's just a process. It takes a long time, like I said, for them to build up that muscle, for them to really be able to carry themselves in the stretch. And for him, he usually doesn't go behind the vertical a whole lot, but in the stretch and in that extended walk, he will. So that's what I was trying to really kind of work on, and I didn't want to push him up into the bridle too hard, just because I didn't want him to take a hold of the bridle, hollow out, and lose his So now I'm going to go into his left lead canter. This is his harder lead. His right hind is significantly weaker. He had some sort of injury prior to me buying him that makes his right hip a lot lower than his left. And it's not anything that I can really fix. It's just going to be something we have a hard time with for the rest of his life. I mean, we might be able to get it a little better. I'm so sorry. But, sorry, I'm watching this. So, I think I told him good boy there, and he went to the trot. I'm trying to break him of that habit. So, when he did that, he needs to wait for me to tell him what's next, what we're going to do next. I lost my train of thought. So, after I do his stretchy workout, warm-up, whatever, that's roughly about 10 minutes or so. Then I go into the hard stuff. So he needs constant reminders not to rob the bit. Constant reminders. So I will go, basically I'm like working on a pyramid. What I'm working on, I'll work on it at the walk, then I'll work on it at the trot, then I'll work on it at the canter. So I'm walking, halting, and you'll see here in a minute, when I go to halt, you see how it takes him like a second or two to drop and soften that underside of his neck. And then there he started pulling with his front end instead of pushing from his hind end back into the walk. So that halt was a little bit better. And then you can see that difference there in how he pushes with his hind end instead of pulling with his front end. And that was good too. So then we go up to the trot, because I was very, very happy with that. Go into a halt. That was good. Still had that like split second before he lowered his head. It should be all seamless. It shouldn't feel like I'm doing this movement and now I'm going to go into another movement. It should feel very fluid. So that halt was okay, but then he tightened the underside of his neck and started pulling. He's not really wanting to give to the bit there, so I'm just standing my ground. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here. But when he started to rein back, I did kick him forward a little bit. Kick him, I squeeze my leg forward, give him a little tap with the spur. He's really locking on with this left rein, so that's why that little bobble was there. I will say, when you're watching videos of dressage and people riding, and you're like, oh, that horse is lame because they took like a couple off steps, there is such a thing as rein lame. So, ooh, that's a good halt. And then that was a good, you see how there wasn't like that second of pushing and then dropping his head. Like it just, his head, his neck, everything all stayed in the same position. It just looks seamless. Anyway, but rein lame, if they're really locked on one side of their jaw, essentially what you're doing is the mouth is, their jaw is connected to their hind legs. Like it's all one. So if they're really stiff up in their neck and in their jaw on one side, and you're trying to work that out and get that broken loose, sometimes they will take a couple off steps because with the fact that their jaw is hooked up to their hind end, I know this is sounding like I'm not explaining this very well, but you'll see some off steps because they're grabbing a hold of the bit on one side of their jaw or the other. So that hind leg, sometimes you'll see like a couple off steps like that is basically what I was trying to say. So I do everything both directions. You see, he kind of had that little bobble there, but like he's really starting to respect that half halt. So instead of halting, now I'm pushing him forward to a medium, bringing him back. That was almost a little too much. He almost halted. So now I'm pushing him back into that medium. And then I'm bringing him back with my core. And what I'm looking for and what I want to feel is him essentially shifting that weight back. I don't want him to hollow out. I don't want him to brace the underside of his neck. I don't want to grab a hold of the bit. When I tighten my core and use my chest to say, hey, whoa, bring that speed back. Let's start collecting it back up again. You see how he had his head up, and then that like split second needs to go away. So that's kind of what I work on with him on a regular basis. But he's getting so much better. Like, this is leaps and bounds compared to what he was before. It's crazy to see. Once we get that half halt just to where he stops locking, I think it's just a security thing for him. I don't know. So you see when I half halted there, he pulled up a little bit, braced the underside of his neck, and then I collect there, go to the halt. That one was really good. I'm very, very happy with that one. Back up into the canter. I'm not giving him any choice to be able to take me. I'm really making him think, and I'm really wanting him to get into the mindset of, is she going to ask me to halt? Is she going to ask me to halt? So that thought of like, ooh, I'm going to take her in the extended canter down the long side, I don't want that thought to even be there. So these are regular rides that upper level dressage riders do. They work on their half halts, they work on breaking them loose, they work on stretching. Most of the time they really don't work on test practice unless you have a show coming up or something like that. He's got all the movements, he can do all the movements. It's just breaking that base of his neck loose and really just getting him more broke to the half halt and the bridle. I'm very, very happy with how this ride went. He was really starting to listen towards the end, and I don't have blisters on my fingers, and I wasn't wearing gloves, so that is a huge win. So just letting him walk around a little bit more. My dog is literally burrowing in the pillows on my bed next to me because I'm in bed doing this. So I'm going to pick him back up. I usually give him a couple minute walk break on a completely loose rein just to let him take a breather. This was a hard ride. Like I worked him. Like we're building that muscle back up. So now I'm going to go into the left lead canter and do the same thing. So this one is significantly harder for him. So everything you do, if you do something on one side, you have to do it on the other. So now I'm doing it on the other side. Going back into the halt. That was better. He didn't take that moment of bracing in the halt and then putting his head down. I just want him to kind of, I don't want to say slide into the halt, but I want it to be seamless. His left lead canter, he gets a little bit like, about. So here he's like, I'm going to pick up the right lead. I'm like, no, we'll just go back to the walk. Ask again. He's like, I don't want to do that. I want to pick up the right lead. And then we finally get that left lead canter. I had to push his haunches over a little bit. And then I went to straighten him on that outside rein. He said, whoa. She asked me to halt. His biggest issue on this left lead is when I go to counterflex a little bit. See how he grabbed the hold of that bit and used that underside of his neck to pull me up out of the saddle? That's what we're trying to get rid of. But he just needs to let go a little bit, you know? He just needs to let it go a little bit. I lost my train of thought. I can't remember what I was saying. But I want to get this done. 10 was screaming for him, so he obviously had to scream. But chef's kiss on the multitasking there, bro. This is starting to look a little better. A little better. Yeah, that's better. Oh, what a good boy. It's repetition. I mean, at the end of the day, we are the horse's personal trainers, and I don't want to overload him, but I want to push him a little bit, because once we kind of push and get outside of that comfort zone, that's kind of when the progress really starts to happen. And the same thing for me in the saddle too. So had that little moment there, that little blip, but that left lead canter is starting to really look a little bit better. I don't want him to be behind the vertical. He was a little bit behind the vertical there. But what I'm working on, see how I counterflexed him there? And he didn't try to take, that's what I was trying to say. So when I counterflex him on his left lead, he will immediately try and charge into that right lead, because that right lead is his comfort zone. That's his easy lead. So what I was working on there was counterflexing him. And when he didn't try and charge and take off or get really stiff, then I halted and let him walk for a little bit. So when they get it and it feels right, then I'm like, okay, we're done with what we were doing there. So now I'm going to go into the counter canter. So in the counter canter, what I'm looking for, I don't want him over bent to the right. So he's counter cantering on that right lead around a circle. Oh, beautiful little change. I don't want him to have like choppy gaits. No, what a good boy. I want it to look fluid, seamless, and I don't want him overbent. So I did not like that transition up into the canter. He braced that underside of his neck, grabbed a hold of the bit, and did the same thing right there. I hope you guys are kind of really watch that underside of his neck. Ooh, that was a fairly decent rein back. He's a little bit behind. He gets a little bit behind the vertical at the walk, not so much at the canter, but watch that like top muscle. So you see how he came up, braced that underside of his neck, and I'm like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do it right. He's like, fine, I'll go to the right lead canter. I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not doing that. We're going to the left. And then see how he gets pissed. I'm just letting him kind of have his little moment. I'm like, no, we're gonna pick up the left lead. We're not gonna f around and find out. Like, let's just this is easy. We're not doing anything crazy. Just pick up your left lead. You're fine. So then I push his haunches over, and I'm like, okay, good. So if you go back and watch how I pushed those haunches over, he didn't really have much of a choice but to soften that underside of his neck, because I was making him think about where his hind end is. So now, I'm not really going into a half pass, a little bit, but more of like a leg yield. And now we're going to go into the counter canter on the left. I didn't do as much of like the circle, because he can hold that counter canter on the right lead on a circle all day long. Left lead, not so much. Hard lead. So you see how he's using that underside of his neck right now to pull me, and then I flex him just a little bit and then go into the change. Late behind, it'll come. But he waited. He didn't charge into it, which was nice. So we're going back to the little walk break, picking up that left lead, pushing his haunches over, coming up in to that little bit of a circle, really working on being able to flex him the opposite direction without him charging into a change. And hey, that was okay. He broke to the trot, but he let me straighten him. So when I say straighten, for the people who don't quite understand, when you're on one lead, so when he's on his left lead, his head is going to be a little bit flexed to the left. I need to be able to straighten him or flex him a little bit to the right without him trying to charge into the new lead. So now I wanted to work on a little bit of the half pass, which was, the angle wasn't quite as great, but I really liked this change. This change I really liked. But when I pat him, I don't want him to break to the trot. So I kick him back up to the canter. Kick him back up to the canter because I didn't ask for that trot. And then go into a halt and then let him go. I'm trying to break some habits that I've caused. Because if I go to like try and comfort him and give him a little pat and say, hey, good job in the middle of a test, I don't want him to break to the trot or break from the canter to the trot or whatever. So instead of being down here on the circle, I wanted to work on a little bit of the changes, a little bit of the rein back. That rein back actually wasn't too bad. You want them to back up in diagonal pairs. I really liked that transition up into this left lead canter. It felt nice and soft. I had to push his haunches over a little bit, but I liked this half pass. He kind of ran out of steam a little bit there. And then I'm trying to see if he'll wait. Nope. And then, boom. Because I don't want him going around crossfiring. I don't want that to be like a cop-out for him. So these are the series changes for the 4th level 1 test. Did not catch his back lead on that middle one. I should have kind of pushed his haunches over a little bit more, but I was actually getting like super tired. Just went back down into the trot, and I was so happy with this half pass. Look at this. Oh my god, look at him. Oh, he's so good, and that's his hard side too. Oh, I was so happy. He was so good. I was really, really happy with that. Oh my gosh. Today was more of a canter day. Tomorrow will be a trot day. Today was a lot of a canter day. So now I wanted to try the changes, I think, one more time. So, little half halt in the corner. So, straighten. Got that change, that was good. That one, you see how he lifts his head up and then he just swaps back his front. So, that wasn't very good, but that first change was alright. Keeping his neck straight is really hard in the changes. That one wasn't too bad. It was late behind 2. Clean there, which is his good side. And then a little bit late behind there. And then... So I was just kind of playing around and asking for changes. And then we went back into the trot. And... halt. And done. Look at him. He's so good. Such a good man. And then promptly I died after this because I was overheated.
The heartbeat was just at 192 beats per minute. That's how hard fucking dressage, especially a horse that tries to drag you, is.
I was basically just talking for like 15 minutes and I hadn't hit record yet. So. My heart rate, what I was saying was, my heart rate was still like 182 beats per minute. Right now it's 141 beats per minute. It's probably backwards so you can't see it, but I basically walked Zeke back, walked him around in the arena for a little bit, then walked him back, which the walk from the big barn down here is maybe like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, so he gets some cool out time walking there, but I try to walk him a couple laps each direction after we're done riding, so that way I can take his boots off and then cool him out without me on him. But it's not even like the summer heat yet, and I already can't. This summer is going to be brutal. But I was saying I was going to go ride 10, but then I realized that today's not Thursday, it's Wednesday. And if I were to ride him today, that would mean that he'd only get one day off this week because we've got the show this weekend. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give him the day off. I was thinking about riding him around the pasture over there, bareback, but I'm feeling a little lightheaded and dizzy, which makes sense because my heart rate is out of control right now. Their buckets were a little dirty, so I figured I'd save the girls some time and dump and refill their water buckets in their stall out. I've got their mash soaking. Typically when I come out after I ride, I give them a scoop, like a full scoop of alfalfa pellets, so I think it's like, what, 2 or 3 pounds, those like regular scoops, and then a little over a pound, like that Purina cup. I fill it all the way up with the Maxi Glow from Mana Pro. I don't normally give that, but I had it left over from Wendy, so I'm just using it up. It's just a fat rice bran supplement, so just trying to get it used. And then I gave Zeke a full, little over a pound of Outlast, and then 10 got about 3/4 a pound of Outlast. So I have that soaking in their buckets right now, but I'm gonna wait to give that to him. I have to give Zeke his tube of the medication, the booster that we're giving him for EPM, which is this. So there are 5 tubes. I give him 1 tube a day for, what's that? Levomyosol. It actually smells really good. So I'm waiting until he completely dries and he's cooled down before I give that to him, and then I'll give him their buckets are soaking there. So I think I am going to trim 10's feet up a little bit. Not like a full trim, but just to clean them up. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that now. Soaking. Soaking. Gross. Alright. This is the before. And like I said, I'm not gonna do much, but you can see how this one's flaring out a little bit. And this is, you know, hit me in the head, his fever ring. So that is almost completely grown out. I think he'll probably have one more, maybe 1 or 2 more shoeings, and then it'll be completely gone. So basically this is all new growth of him being completely and totally barefoot. So we're looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go see what this guy looks like. We need to pick out your feet. These are his back feet. All right, here's them all trimmed up. I'm gonna put some oil on. Hi, buddy. Your feet are looking better. That's a lot of work. I'm clearly not used to this weather. I might have to start working out again. There ain't no way. And I gotta quit vaping. I'm not buying any more packs. I'm feeling good. Let's see. Zeke, Mom's gotta give you your taste. The yucky. Gross. He's mad at me. Hey, buddy. He says, okay. He says, let me in there, Mom. Yum. Ugh. Oh, this is heavy. Oh. I'm gonna clean up this stall while I'm at it. Lord, deliver me from evil. I'm so hot. I don't even think I ate enough. I know for sure I did not eat enough. I think my blood sugar probably got low. Because I was getting so dizzy.
the notification bell if you want to get notified when I post new videos. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye. So I haven't been on my ADHD meds in like a year, and I finally just got them back. I think earlier this week or last week. I think it was this week. No, last week. And I kind of forgot how to ADHD medicate. And I forgot how much of an appetite they don't give you. So I realized right before I went to go leave for the barn that I hadn't really eaten anything much today. And so I made sure I ate a granola bar and an apple right before I left. Made sure to drink water. It really wasn't like that hot today, but so all that being said, I think I got overheated because I'm not used to the summer yet. And I rode outside. I only rode Zeke, but my heart rate was like over 195 beats per minute, and it didn't come down for quite a while. I tried to make sure it came down, and I was not, like huffing when I got in the car to drive home. I had a Gatorade in the car, so I could drink that on the way home to replenish my electrolytes. What I'm trying to say is I threw up in my car. On the bright side, it was really only water and Gatorade. And yes, I have my shirt off. Because I tried to wipe the door down first. So that's how my Wednesday is going.